first said I was going to go and become a trader, my mom was like so disappointed, man. She was just like, I can't believe you're going to go do this. Like, I still remember we went out to eat once a week when I was young, and it was when kids ate free at this restaurant. Hello, right? With a big mouth of toothpaste. Oh, this is the CEO of PPDI. And all, if you add it all up, I'm sure I lost $500,000 over the course of my early years. And then I'm like, maybe I'm dreaming. Like, maybe this isn't really happening. No, it's really happening. And I can't even count how many times I doubted myself early on that I could actually survive and do this as a career. That is normal.
Now it's just blown my mind. It really is. It's just incredible, man. Incredible. Becoming a successful trader is extremely difficult. Mentally, physically, emotionally, financially, it is draining. It's not only about the mental pressure and the financial pressure, but it's also about conquering your own mind and keep pushing forward, even though you're failing every single day. Welcome to the channel. My name is 𝗥𝗲𝗍, and in this episode, I'm bringing you someone who's been trading for more than 24 years. He's seen it all, he learned it all, he has an incredible journey, an incredible story, and most importantly, he's gonna share it with you in this episode. So let me present you the man, the legend,
Mr. Gareth Soloway.
Gareth Soloway.
Gareth Soloway.
Gareth Soloway.
Family member, a friend, Gareth Soloway. Welcome, Gareth.
Hey, thank you so much for having me. This is exciting. I love this new show format.
I love it. I love it. I'm so happy that you said yes to this interview, and also thank you so much for taking this in a very short notice. I'm very happy, and I'm very excited to talk to you. So let's jump right into it. First of all, we know who is Gareth Soloway. Like, I mean, we see you, we see your charts, we see your projects, we see everything, but we don't know who Gareth Soloway is. You know what I mean? So it's very exciting, because the reason why I also wanted to talk to you is because you have achieved the level of success that you have achieved both on, you know, the trading side, investing side, and obviously on, you know, social media and being invited on shows and whatnot, and creating your own. But we don't really know who you are on the personal level. What do you do every day when you wake up? You know, how did you grow up? Where did you grow up? What struggles did you have? And I'm sure that you had a ton. And I've been doing a tiny bit of research about you, and I'm very excited for you to share all this. So I just want to understand where you're coming from. Like, who is Gareth Soloway at 10 years old? You know, like what's up?
Oh my goodness. At 10 years old, let's see. So I was a kid. I probably was buying, you know, when I could, sports cards. You know, I was into basketball and baseball and different sports cards. I think that's how my interest in investing actually started, is I started to recognize that, you know, if you got a Michael Jordan card, it could actually be worth something. And, you know, maybe it was only $1 back then, but $1 to me back then was massive, right? So it was always exciting to open up that new pack of cards and just see where it is or what you had in it. So I think that was part of it. You know, for me, I grew up in a relatively, you know, middle income, lower income household. I still remember we went out to eat once a week when I was young, and it was when kids ate free at this restaurant, right? So my parents, we couldn't afford to really go out to eat where we, you know, no fancy restaurants, certainly. So we just went out on once a week, and that was the time we did. And I grew up playing outside. I really wasn't allowed to watch TV when I was young. It was kind of a philosophy that I grew up with, which was kind of go out and play outside, be part of nature, build forts, do cool things like that honestly a lot of kids don't do anymore, which is a shame. But it just, you know, it was a great life. I went to, you know, I went to spend summers on my grandparents' farm, and they farmed wheat and corn and all these other things. And I still remember sitting on my grandfather's lap, driving the combines and the big tractors and the trucks. And it was just like, I mean, it was the coolest, you know, summers I could ever have as a kid, just being outdoors and learning about things. So that was me. I mean, there's literally no touching on investing in stocks back then. My parents didn't have enough money to invest, and it kind of just, you know, it slowly, I would say once I got to high school, right? That's when I was thinking about college. It was where I saw something called the investment club, and I was like, oh, that'll look good on my resume, right? You know, to get into a decent school, a university. And so I joined it, and that was the beginning. I was in at the .com bubble peak. So this was like when it was like essentially coming into crypto in 2021, and just being blown away by how much money you could make. I didn't have any money at that point, so it was all fake. It was like a fake account, but it was still addicting. Like, to think that, you know, you could come from wherever you are, making whatever, or having a, you know, relatively poor childhood, to making insane amounts of money so quickly. It was addicting, and I was like, all right, this is my life's work. I got to figure this out.
So let's back up a little bit because it's very interesting what you're saying. So if someone looks at you, you're like the big city guy, with the big screens and the big boys and, and money and this and that and trades and and yet you're saying that you're from a farm, are you coming from like a small area, small village or bigger place, or how does your area look like?
Yeah, so I grew up in just outside of Boston. That was a majority of my young life till I was about 7 or so. And so it was, Boston's a big city. But my mom's parents, they had a farm in Minnesota. So it was, lots of farmland. My grandfather and his workers would be up every morning at, before the sun rose and be out in the fields, and I would join in on that whenever I could. So it was kind of like the summers when I wasn't in school, I was able to experience this other kind of thing. So it was a little bit of both. It was a little bit of city life mixed with farm life, and that was a very cool thing. I still, my parents, again, I grew up and I look back and I'm really thankful of this at this point. But again, it was no TV, very, very minimal on sweets. We didn't have candy in the house, really. It was eating vegetables and fruits and kind of, stuff that the earth was providing to kind of nourish us versus a lot of the crap that's out there. And then when I'd go to my grandparents' farm, it was like, all right, we work out in the fields, which was great, and I loved that as a kid. It was just like the freedom. But at the same time, they had a candy closet with like M&Ms and Reese's Pieces, and then it was just like literally a kid in the candy store. So it was it was a kind of a dual edged thing where I got both sides of it.
We're going to talk about that as well, because I know that even today it's important for you to grow food and to teach your family and your kids as well. So I wanted to touch on to that as well, because I think it's like relaxing your mind from trading a little bit as well, just recharging. I'll get back to that in a second. How do you get into, you say there was an investing club. How did that happen?
Yeah, so I went to a relatively small school. There were only about 20 people in my graduating class, so it was a really small school. Both my parents actually at one point taught in the school. It was a private school. The only way I could get in, or I could go to that school, because it was a little more pricey being a private school, was that my parents worked there, so we got to go for free, my sister and I. And so it was one of those things where that was nice, because we had that ability to get an education that was different. And my education, I mean, at this school, they're called the Walder Schools, and they're all over the world at this point.
No way.
But, yeah.
It's like the Stein. I did 13 years there. Are you serious?
No way.
Yeah, bro. I did 13 years in school and 2 years in kindergarten, man.
Where were you?
In Hungary, Europe.
Oh, Hungary, yeah. So they're all over the world.
Bro, that's crazy. Yeah. That's crazy.
That is pretty cool. That's awesome,
incredible, man. Wow.
So you know what I'm talking about. It's a philosophy that's more about being one and like putting your hands into the earth and playing outside in nature, and it's less on technology. And so weirdly enough, I grew up with very little technology, and here I am using technology every day, which shows you that it gave me the tools to kind of do what I wanted in life and find my own place and make really good money doing my own business and growing my businesses. So that's really cool, man. That's really
incredible.
Cool.
Walder School, what it really does teach you is to really discover and open your mind to everything, right? So it's like not to stick, you have to be good at math, you have to be good at sports, you have to give it. No, it's like really just discover yourself and then just do that. Like try to expand and then stay connected with nature, hey? But it's very interesting.
And if you were like me, I mean, like I did things that most kids, these days, at least in the US, they don't even have a chance to do. Like I had woodworking, I had stone sculpture, I had heck, I think I even had the dance class and
all that.
It's just like it really is about broadening horizons and trying all these little things. And like, back then, did I like some of this stuff? No. But now looking back, I'm like, wait a minute. So it was showing me there's always a reason behind it that as a kid you don't see, but later on you're like, okay, now I'd like that for my kids,
This is so incredible knowing that you went there. It's just blown my mind. It really is. It's just incredible, man. Incredible. So did you, so in there was like this investing club, or that has no relation to it?
No, that was it. So in high school, there was someone had started an investment club, and it was like, here's a fake kind of portfolio and let's learn how to invest in stocks. And to be honest, the way I did it back then is not the way I do it now, because it was very base, like, oh, I like Disney, or oh, I like this. So let me put money in. That has nothing to do with, it has nothing to do with my likes anymore. I'm all a chart guy. So it's all about data. But that was really, it was more like watching these stocks go nuts. Like a penny stock that was like 3 cents went to 10, then went to 50, then went to $5. And again, even though it wasn't real money, I was just like, whoa, if I just put $1,000 in there, how much money do you have? And I was just like, all right, this is so exciting, like to be in a career. Like, can you do this for a career? Because, every day you don't know how much money you could make. You could make a fortune, you could lose, but it's instead of the monotony of an everyday job, it was like, man, this is where I want to be. I want to find out how to do this. And I got to work, and I didn't, by the way, for everyone out there, I stunk, like literally, and everyone does. I mean, it's just like the tools you need. It's mental discipline. It's understanding chart patterns, understanding probabilities, keeping control of emotion. Like no one goes into trading and is a genius. There's no such thing, in my opinion. Some people will be better than others because they have better controls over that thing. For me, I started, so after college, after university, I went to work at MetLife, which is kind of like an insurance company. They do financial planning. And I thought I was going to do financial planning, but I was like the low man on the totem pole. Like I was the guy that was go get coffee, get on the phones and make cold calls. And I hated it, man. I hate calling people up. I hate the rejection. And so after 1 year, I just was like, I'm done. Like I walked away. I had 10,000 saved at that point, and I went to a prop firm. And I started trading my own capital. They gave me $50,000 to trade on that 10,000. So it's not the crazy like 100x we see now in crypto. Like back then, 5x was pretty good. And I lost, right? I lost money. I ended up working 3 jobs on the side to replenish my trading account. Think about that. I would lose, and then I'd bust my ass like at nights and weekends working so I could just put more money in so that I could lose more. And obviously, I didn't think I was going to lose more, but that's what happens, right? Every trader goes through this. Now, you come into a bull market, you get lucky, but in reality, over time, if you don't know what you're doing, you're going to lose. The market takes advantage of you. So that was me for multiple years, and I just was like, I will not give up. I will not fail at this. I will keep studying. I learned more and more about charts and psychology, and slowly the pieces began to fall into place. And I said, slowly you move from losing most trades to like losing 50% of trades, and then, okay, now I'm winning on 60%. And then you just kind of slowly increase that win rate over time.
I love how you explain everything. So much questions popping up. So I know that you have tripled that account, right? So you had this demo account that you were working with, and you tripled that, right? So you went up to 300,000, and you said, "This is it. Like I can do this real time. Let's do it," right? Yeah. And then you collected. But you're still, how old are you at that time? Still in high school.
So the demo account was in high school, right? So there was something called the Yahoo Finance Challenge, where the Yahoo Finance gave you like 100K in fake money, and basically it was just like, go try to make as much in the month, and then every month it reset. And so at one point when I was doing this investment club, I did that, and like I was able to, by doing these kind of like these .coms, I literally doubled and tripled the money. Oh. And that's really where the addiction came in. It wasn't from like buying Disney and watching it go up 1% a day. I mean, that's not going to addict anyone. It was more so that experience during this ridiculous period of insanity in the markets, where it was so addicting for me as a kid. And I think, when I barely got it, I think maybe when I was in high school, I got like a $5 allowance, which was used to do little things, but I didn't have a lot of money. My parents didn't give me money in that respect. So it was even more addicting than someone that may have a golden spoon or whatever, the silver spoon, because I didn't have that experience of having any money. And all of a sudden it's like, wow, if that was real, I could go buy myself a car. Like, wow,
So did you, after that, because you said you went to MetLife, right? So after you went working in insurance, you wanted to say like working in insurance, isn't that? I understand that wasn't what you did, but that was the idea. The question is, did you stick with learning from going to high school and then going through the work, or did you go to work because you were like, I just got to get some money and get out of here and go trading?
Yeah, so I think what it was, and this is kind of crazy, is like in high school, going into college or university, I knew I wanted to be a trader, but I didn't know how to get there. Like I didn't have money. I didn't know, like, how do you become a trader? And so out of college, it was kind of like, the jobs market wasn't the greatest then. So it was kind of like, well, this is kind of in that realm of investments. And so let me go there. I'll do my best. And I'll, it's basically one of the few jobs I could get. But you studied economics, right? So you studied. Yeah, I was an economics major. I will say this. And again, I think education's amazing, but to doing what I do now, what I learned as an economics major, I use maybe like 1% of it. And the reason I say that is because it's the real world when trading is much more emotional control, much more pattern recognition. College, what you're going to learn at the university is going to teach you like, here's a PE ratio and how to calculate, this to this and like that stuff when it comes to trading. And now, if you're a long-term investor, that's great. But for trading, that means basically zero.
But did that degree or university lead you into actually being more interested in trading, or that had nothing to do with it?
I think that for the most part, I was more it honestly didn't really interest me more. I just thought it was the avenue that I had to take to achieve what I wanted to in life. That's what I thought. Now, while I was in college,
you had to do what you had to do, right?
Yeah,
very,
exactly.
Very important.
And I got a funny story for you. So in college, I was in a dorm room with two other guys. We shared a dorm room, and I had $1,000 account that I opened up to invest in stocks. That was all the money I had. Yeah, real account. This is a real account now. $1,000. That was a lot of money to me. And I bought a stock. I think it was PPDI, pharmaceutical product development. And basically I bought it and it went down and it just like started to drift lower. And I'm just like, I was like, this is a lot of money to me. Like, what the heck? Right. And so I wrote it like kind of like a nasty letter to the company, company. And so I was like, I can't believe, and again, this was much more respectful than social media these days, right? I was respectful in it, but I was like, I'm very disappointed in how this is going. Like, what's going on? Why aren't you guys doing more? Da, da, da. Well, one morning I'm like brushing my teeth in the communal bathroom and mouth full of toothpaste, and all of a sudden my buddy comes in. He's like, "Oh, you got a phone call." And this is when I didn't have a cell phone here now, So I pick up the phone. It was just our room phone, and I'm like, "Hello," with a big mouth of toothpaste. "Oh, this is the CEO of PPDI." The CEO actually called me, and again, this is a different time, so understand. This was in like 99, 2000. It was really at that period, but it was amazing. He like reassured me on the phone. He probably didn't know I was just some stupid college kid, and then all I could say was, oh, thank you, for calling me. Okay, that sounds great. Whatever, dude. I was just like, wow. And so luckily enough, the stock ended up going back. I ended up getting out basically break even. I just got my money back and I was like, all right, let's take a step back here and see how it goes. But just some cool stories, man, growing up.
That's awesome. But did you take a step back, or were you like, yeah, so it's break even, I solved it, let's get to the next one?
I probably went to the next one.
Yeah,
you know the addiction early on.
Totally. All right. So how you said something very interesting when you said you hate rejection. And you said, this is what I meant, but trading is rejection.
It is.
Especially when you learn. So
right.
how did you get into, and a little bit, let's talk about really how did you get into learning to trade? So like at the actual learn, how did you start? You blown your accounts, or like what happened?
Yeah, so really, I would say the real learning came when I left MetLife after a year, and I had 10,000, and then it became kind of like, okay, now this is now serious. This is a career. And so I just can't like guess and trade. I actually have to study the charts and figure out what's going on. So as I was losing, I was always making sure to write down what happened. Why didn't this work out? I was taking note of little pivot points on the chart and saying, okay, what happens? And it was a lot of trial and error and looking for similarities and things that were repeating and studying, right? It was just studying more and more and learning kind of these different things. And it took a while, more so because even when stuff, you're still fighting your own emotion in the trade, and it was about getting control of that. And so it was a process, but that was really the next, let's say 3 years or so after that, that was where I was really like losing, but I was learning at the same time. So it was almost like I was paying for a new education, right? I was paying the market to educate me, unfortunately.
That is something I really want to spend time on, because everybody starts out like that, everybody. And then and again, something got my attention, what you said, that even when you know stuff, you're losing. So even when you're like there, I'm like, I know where the chart, and I can, and I'm still losing money. Why is that? It's because of my emotions. So right. How did you start? First of all, I wanted to step back, a little tiny step back, and just look at, you said, now this is a career. So did you have a job at that time, or did you put the whole 10K into the account, or like what was the deal there? So because basically it's a big jump.
Yeah, once I left MetLife and I quit, I went to the prop firm and I put the 10K in the account that I had saved, and that was my main job. But again, keep in mind that I very quickly learned that I needed side jobs to support my trading habit, almost like a drug habit, right? You had to kind of as I was losing, I had to somehow replenish that because I mean, getting a 5x leverage on 10K, okay, 50K, but when that account gets down to $1,000, you're not really getting much buying power at that point. And so I had to continually work. So I was a bartender at nights. I taught it on the weekends. I worked at a catering company on the weekends, and basically whatever I could do to make money. And at first I was living in my parents' house, but then the whole time being a young guy in my early 20s, I was like, I got to get out of my parents' house, right? I mean, so I then rented the basement from my friend for like $200 a month. I rented it, and then I kept my expenses like so low. And that's the key. I would just impress upon everyone is like there's this narrative in social media that you got to be a trader and you got to drive a Ferrari or a Lambo, and like to be honest, until you prove that you have, and by the way, proving means like literally making millions of dollars trading, you have to treat it like a business, which is keep your expenses low, right? The lower the expenses, the more chance of survival you have. And again, literally 1 to 3% probably survive becoming a day trader in the world we live in. So the odds are stacked against you. So you have to keep those those expenses super low. And I did that. I ate as cheaply as I could for that period and did whatever I could. And eventually things changed, but it took a lot of time.
Very interesting that you're saying that you need to prove yourself, and you need to prove yourself by making a lot of money, but also you need to prove yourself on a long term making a lot of money.
Yes.
Right. So
that's the more important thing, right? Because think about this, like how many people thought they were geniuses in 2021 in crypto, right? And now look at what's happened. So you have to be able to trade through bull and bear markets and be profitable in both. And, then maybe you talk about, okay, this is a career change. You don't want to just be in a bull market where you close your eyes and make money. And you can't be like, oh, I'm leaving my job because I can make money forever. It's not going to work that way.
A lot of times I see you in your content mentioning that you have blown up accounts and you have lost money, and you've lost substantial amount of money before. How do you overcome that? Why do you keep going? A lot of people give up. A lot of people,
right.
97%. Why don't you give up? So you've been losing six figures if I'm correct, right? Before you became a profitable trader. Why?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, in all, if you add it all up, I'm sure I lost $500,000 over the course of my early years. And that was just, busting my ass to make money and then giving it away to the market. But again, the key was I was learning from it. And again, one of the reasons why I love what you're doing here with this show is that it's educational, right? So I always say, like, if I could go back and I had the assets that people have today with social media and shows like this, I probably would have lost a lot less money because I would have had more educational material. And so, you're never going to be perfect. You're still going to lose, but there are at least today ways where you can learn. If you put your mind to it, you can learn how to lose less than I did, for instance. So yeah, I mean, when you take big losses, it stinks. There's no doubt about it, but you have to one of my bigger losses was 70K in a day. And it wasn't the 70K. Like, honestly, these days I'll be down over 70K on a trade today. But it's in an account of multiple millions of dollars. So it's not as big of a percentage. Back then there was a trade where I was down 70K in one day and I only had 100K in the account. So I basically blew up the account within reason there. And I still remember getting out of my seat and like, you kind of in a daze. You're like, is this, like, am I dreaming? I think I even said that in my head. I'm like, maybe I'm dreaming. Like, maybe this isn't really happening. No, it's really happening. And, for me, I'm a very logical person, and logic helps you. And back then I was already getting to that logical space. And I just said to myself, I would think I was like in my low 20s, like maybe 23, 24, 25. And I said, all right, do I have a roof over my head? Yes. Do I have food on the table? Yes. Do I have my health? Yes. Well, what else do you really need? Like, you have those things. I'm young. I can go right back to work and make more money. So let it go, move on, learn from it. And again, you have the three top things: your health, food on the table, roof over your head. Go back to it and go kicking butt again.
How did you support yourself throughout the 3 years? So you said you work days and nights, and you work weekends, but you kept giving. So I just want to tap into that little something that kept you going. So what is it that like, I'm busting my, I don't know, I heard you bartended, right? So like you do this, you're standing there and you're giving all that money back into the markets, and why are you keep coming back?
Yeah. So first off, I can't even count how many times I doubted myself early on that I could actually survive and do this as a career. That is normal. All right. In trading, it's going to do that to you. But after a little while of doubt, I just was like, I don't know if it's something that comes from me internally. I really truly believe we all have this inside of us when we find what we're passionate about, but it is something that there wasn't an option. Like, it was literally that, or I was going to go work at McDonald's, and then that would be like, I'd be like, that's, this is not for me. Like, this is what I want to do. This is the only thing I want to do, and I'm just going to make it happen. Even if I blow up my account 5 more times, I will work my butt off until I achieve this.
Incredible. So you get to, how long does it take for you to get profitable? And also, what are this? So are you getting profitable in a way, I believe, that you're making money, losing money, making money, and you don't really understand why, but you already understand the charts? Like, where is the point in your career where you say, wow, this is like actually paying off? All the work I've put in is actually paying off.
Yeah. So I would say, number one, it takes time. It took me probably 3 to 5 years to become a really decently profitable trader, but it's a very slow process, right? It's think about a trend line that's slowly inching up, and the trend line's inching up as you becoming slightly closer to the profitability line, right? So at first the line's below the midpoint of 0. And so it's losing a lot, losing a little less, and then finally you get to break even. And then even when you get to break even, and you're starting to make money, you still have setbacks, right? You still have that time where you lose like X amount of dollars, 20,000, and it sets you back multiple months of profits. And that's where it almost breaks you, right? That's where I would say trading gets you down, was where you have made money, let's say 6 months in a row, and one trade, you didn't control your risk, and you blow it away, and you lost all 6 months. And it's very daunting to be like, holy cow, I just wasted 6 months of my life. Well, the key is you didn't waste it. You learned, and you have to learn again. So the more you trade, the more trades you take, the more lessons you're learning consistently, even to this day. Like, I'm not a perfect trader. I still have losses. Every day I'm learning a little bit more, and that's going to help me become even more profitable down the line. So it's kind of a process, but it took me 3 to 5 years legit to become basically a positive trader.
Let's talk about, because on the way, and you emphasize discipline a lot. Discipline in your own life, discipline on the charts, correlation between the two. How do you see that?
Yeah, so I mean, the discipline in your life, I mean, that partially comes from like the trading and the life work together in a weird way. So for instance, when I was growing up, I was like, there were things that I would get attached to, and I was always like, all right, I have to do this and figure this out, and I'm just going to go full force, and I won't take no for an answer. And that discipline of just not giving up, I think, translates into trading and at least giving you a leg up in trading. And then vice versa, as you trade more and more and you start to recognize the patterns that work out most of the time, and you say, if I play this pattern 75% of the time, I'm going to win on this trade, that becomes very much ingrained in your brain that says, listen, ignore emotion, get it out of there. All it's doing is hurting you in this. And then interestingly enough, you bring that back into your home life as well. And like I've said this before, like occasionally my wife's gotten better about accepting how I am, but like there are times where she'd be like, well, why aren't you more upset about this? Why are you just like whatever? Like, and I'm like, honestly, it's like a losing trade. You just forget about it. Like, something happened, we have to move on. We learn from it, we move on. And it's the same mentality. And so it's got its positives and negatives. Like, you want emotion in your personal life, but trading, if you do it for long enough, you will find yourself detaching a little bit from situations and just very much rationalizing those situations.
How is your, I also wanted to ask you about this. I don't know how much you want to touch up on family life, but how is your family adopting of you being a trader? How did that come? Because being a trader in and of itself is very difficult, but being someone else's partner while is being a trader is a challenge.
Yeah, so it brings up a funny point. So early on, when I first said I was going to go and become a trader, my mom was like so disappointed, man. She was just like, I can't believe you're gonna do this. Like Wall Street is all greed, and like to her, that's being a little on the middle and lower income spectrum there. That's what it was to her, right? It was like, oh, you're gonna become one of these greedy people that all that matters is money, and like that's not what I envisioned for my son, right? And then over time, I think she's come around to the fact that I do my best to teach and share my knowledge and do what I can to help people. And really that's what it's about, right? It's not like I'm putting myself in a bubble and saying, screw everyone else, I'm just going to focus on me. It's about, well, let's talk trading. Let's talk the patterns. Let's help people learn. And then it becomes more, I guess, altruistic. And she really loves that aspect. And she always wanted me to become a teacher. And in a weird way, I am a teacher now. And it just, 100%. I teach the charts instead of, I think she had it in my head like I was going to be like a math teacher or something in
a
school.
Waldorf school. In a Waldorf school somewhere.
Dude, she would have loved that. That would have been like her dream for me, is to be a Waldorf teacher.
Yeah, but you're at a better place. I think you're at a better place, and you are teaching and changing lives.
And by the way, teachers don't get paid enough, and I can vouch for that with knowing what my parents, what our income was when they were both teachers, and that's something that I hope our society eventually get remedies. But I will say I make much better money now doing education.
A tiny bit you're doing better.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm just putting the puzzle together again, and I have to circle back. So your mother is disappointed with you. You're losing money. You're busting your ass off trying to make it, and you're still going on for 3-4 years before you become profitable. Why? What is the driving force, Gareth? Like, that's what you gotta give us. Try to, like, what is it? Because people are at the edge. They want to give up.
Yeah.
They are going through the exact same shit as you are going through.
Yeah. So I mean, so it's this. And again, there's so many things that come into play with this. But I vividly remember that I felt a lot of pressure as a young guy, like becoming successful, like, whether it was, dating wise, and like you have to be the successful guy, like what society presses on people. But there was no choice in the matter in my mind. Like this is what I want to do. I will not be happy doing anything else. And therefore I must be successful, because otherwise, if I'm not successful monetarily, then I'm not successful. Now, that mindset, honestly, is not a good mindset for people. But that was what I went through.
Why do you think it's not a great mindset?
Well, because I think in today's society, like, there are other things like teachers, right? So teachers that don't make a lot of money, they do it. My parents taught not because they made money, but because they had a passion for helping. And I think that's really important. For me, for some reason, I was very much into like, hey, if I'm going to land the girl, if I'm going to land this, I gotta be able to afford a house. I got to be able to afford a nice car. And therefore I have to do this. And that was my mindset, like, for a lot of it, and I think that really played a role into me not being willing to give up and just do whatever I have to do. If I had to work 20 hours a day and sleep 4, I was going to do it. Right. And there were plenty of times where it got close to that when I was starting in the moneystocks.com, where, my partner and I, we had to work crazy hours because otherwise we would have failed. Right. So
there is a question from the community, and we're gonna circle back to that because that's also a very interesting topic to talk about. There are 2 main questions regarding to this topic, what we just had. One is, what is the biggest obstacle that you had to overcome out of necessity? So what is like the biggest that you had to overcome becoming a trader? And if you would start all over again, would you make any changes in your learning process? And if so, what would that be?
Wow. So obstacle wise, it is definitely like, recognizing as a trader that you're going to be wrong. And I think that was one of the biggest revelations I had as an investor, is that, when I was a newbie, I would get into trades heavily because I was like, oh, well, this is a no-brainer trade. I'm going to make lots of money, so I might as well put all my money in because it's going to work out. And as soon as I changed my mindset to going into a trade saying, this one could be a loss. Well, now if you think about it that way, I'm not going to put all my eggs in one basket. I'm not going to put all my money in the trade. I'm going to be much more cautious, which actually is a preservation of capital. And it's not so much about how much money you make as a trader or investor. It's how much you don't lose. Because once you blow yourself up, you blow yourself up. So you have to be able to sustain yourself for a period of time that enables you to learn this game. And again, most people don't do that. They want to make $1 million overnight. And by that, they're going to take crazy risks. And one thing goes wrong and they blow themselves up.
And a lot of people already count the money when they get it. Like,
right.
You see that every single day.
Right.
This trade, dude, I'm going to make $10,000. And okay,
I'm going to buy that, this. I'm going to buy that.
And how much you're going to lose?
Right.
well, 25,000 if I lose. And there's like, okay, so your risk reward and like what, like
Yeah.
people don't think about that. Don't think about
Yeah.
that at all.
That's
And
so true.
what changes would you make on the way?
So, I mean, the biggest ones for me is I really do wish that I spent more time trying to learn early on. I think this is a problem with young people in general, right? I was young. I was in my early 20s. I was, I was like, I'm going to conquer this. I'm going to force myself into this and like force it to work out. Where what I should have done is honestly, I should have spent a year just learning. And like, in fact, while I was at MetLife for that year, I should have just been like reading books on trading and studying. And I probably could have saved myself hundreds of thousands of dollars by educating myself early on. But again, we all have this like, I'm invincible. I'm going to be the greatest. I'm going to be, the greatest that ever lived. I don't need to, that mentality honestly gets in your way, and it will actually force you to, unfortunately, lose more money than you want to.
And screws you and extends your journey to become a professional trader. But
Absolutely.
This education, yeah, sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, like, part of the reason I put out my educational, my winning trader series is because, it's a way to jump ahead, right? So if you think like, let's say everyone has 5 years to learn trading, it's going to take them 5 years. If you take education, it will actually shorten that probably by 2 years, which is huge if you think about your life and compounding wins. Like 2 years can be the difference between you having 50 million or 100 million later in your life. I mean, it's a huge amount. And I always say this to the people too, is that the markets will make you pay one way or the other. You have the choice of get yourself educated, or the markets will make you pay usually about 10 times what you would have spent to educate yourself.
This is what I wanted to ask you about, that this leads very nicely into your passion for education, passion for teaching people, and also your experience becoming a professional trader leads very nicely into the money stocks and also verified investing. What's the journey like? Why do you start these? What are these about? What do you do?
Yeah. So in the money stocks, I started, my partners and we started it because at that point, we had developed this kind of methodology of how to read charts, how to like analyze charts to give us the win rates that we wanted. And we were like, you know what, there's probably a market. We were trading we were still trading in the prop firm at this time. And we kind of were like, looking around, and new traders would come in and they'd just be like losing money. And we're like, wait a minute, what we know can actually help these people and potentially help them make money. So that was really this thought process. We're like, all right, we have something we've learned that other people would want to learn. So we could start a website and actually help people do this. And I think that was really the core of it.
What? Wow, that's very nice. So you are actually, I don't really know how prop firms work back then. So you had to go to an actual place and you had to like deposit the money in there and they give you a trade there, or like how did that work?
Yeah. So, and just going back to the last point, I don't want to make it clear. Like, I don't want it to come across like this was a whole totally altruistic kind of thing, right? We understood that we had knowledge that could help people not lose as much, and that we could obviously have people pay us for that knowledge, right? So just being flat out honest, it was like saying, all right, well, they can, instead of losing 10,000, they might only lose 2,000, but they pay us 1,000, they win, and then we win as well by making money with the website. So, I mean, that's really what it came down to. It's getting a skill that other people, there's a demand for, from other people. And then what was the other question?
No, I think I also want to reflect on this, and then I think it's just very important. Also, a lot of people say, if you make, I mean, not you specifically, but in general, if you make so much money in trading, why do you teach and why do you charge people? I mean, and my question always comes back down: if I can teach you a skill that makes you $1 million in a year, how much does that skill for the rest of your life? How much does that skill worth? It's not the question is how much money I make. The question is how much is it worth for you? So like what that's exactly the thought process that you're saying. And I don't think there's any issue with that. And people who talk about that, they don't understand the game, and probably exactly what you say. The 5 years is going to get 10 years and 15 years and not going to get there at the end. So the question was really about the prop firm. So how did that work so you had to go into the place, deposit the money in there, and then they give you money and you trade it on that location, or?
Yeah, exactly. So they had a computer set up there for me. I would go in every day. It would be basically like a huge desk with multiple people trading at different little trade stations. And I deposited the 10K into an account under their brokerage, their essentially exchange or whatever it may be, and then they would give me, like, I would see in my personal account 50K to trade. But the kicker is that any losses came out of my 10K, right? So the prop firm only was giving me leverage. They never took losses, right? It always came out of my 10K, which is why my 10K went to zero so quickly is because if I took a $2,000 loss on 50K, that's not crazy, but I was back to down to 8,000 now. That's 6,000.
Yeah.
And then before you know it, you're like, oh crap.
It's basically 20% of your risk on your capital,
right.
Per trade. Yeah. So so you started in the money stocks. What was the process like? So you're trading, and also you're starting most probably because also trading is like pretty boring, right? So you trade a lot, but then at the same time you wait a lot as well for the trade setups to show themselves.
Right. And I think that's part of the discipline is that most people have this addiction where they always have to be in a trade.
You gotta trade. Yeah.
And then what you'll find is as you get more advanced, it's actually the less you trade, the more you actually make, because you're being more, you're picking more carefully the setups, which means the probabilities of them working out will be higher, and therefore you'll make more money. And where we get ourselves into trouble is when we get in losing trades, and then we add to losing trades, and then it becomes a bigger loss. And so you want to avoid as many of those as you can. You want your win rate as high as possible so that you don't have to deal with the losing scenarios and decide, where do I cut it? Do I add to this position? Oh my goodness, it's getting so big, etc. So that's really, I think, one of the keys there. And then just like really understanding for people out there watching is understand. And again, I reiterate this 10 million times, but there's no magic bullet. Like no one promising you 100% success rate is going to be true. Like, again, I probably bat around 80%, which is amazing in the game of trading, but it still means, remember, out of every 100 trades, 20 trades are losers. And so you have to go in always saying, well, what if this trade I'm taking right now is one of my 20 that's a loser out of 100? I don't want to put my full account in it because that would really suck. And so it really the money management is so, so important when it comes to trading.
I wanted to dig your mind about this. What do you think the main important in trading is? Like what makes a successful trader? What criteria you need to have, or what you need to have to become a successful trader?
Well, I mean, I think you have to have a drive that you're not willing to give up, because the market will make you want to give up over and over again. I think that as a trader, there's two avenues that you have to be aware of. So, for me, when I started at the perfect time. I was young. I didn't have kids. I didn't have a wife. I had very low bills. That enabled me to basically say, hey, I have no other responsibilities. Even if I barely have food on the table, I can still do this. Once you have a family, it's a little harder, right? If you have a family, the only way you can do it is if you have extra money, right? You don't want to trade with money that you're scared to lose, that you got to pay your mortgage with, because ultimately scared money never makes money. It will lose, and you will end up suffering, and it's just not going to work. So you really have to be in a certain area of your life at that point. I always suggest when a new trader comes in, if you have a job, don't quit your job. That's the security. That's what pays your bills. Trade on the side until you're really good and you can prove yourself. And when I say prove, I don't mean like, oh, I had a profitable month. Like everyone has a profitable month. You need to prove yourself for years, like 2-3 years, through a bull market, through a bear market, and then think about quitting your job. But as soon as you quit your job, the fear of, oh my gosh, now everything, all the pressure's on this trade, that's going to make you make the wrong decision at the wrong time.
Absolutely. What else makes a successful trader? So discipline, you talked about discipline a lot. How do you keep your discipline? Because I know they also in your, like you talk a lot about the daily life, that you have to have discipline on your routines in your life as well. How do you keep track of that? What do you recommend others do?
Yeah, I mean, discipline, again, like you're saying, it needs to be in all parts of your life. Like I've never met someone who can't get up till noon every day that's become a successful day trader, right? The discipline, it has to start with your home life, whether it's your eating, whether it's the gym every day, whether it's a routine, because that builds structure, and structure is what you have to use to kind of develop your own trading strategies and style. So I think that's really, really important, is to have that structure and discipline there. And then I think overall, it's just it's having a mindset where, you have to start to trust the chart. At least for me, I'm a chart trader. I know other people aren't, but I think for the most part, day traders and swing traders have to be chart traders, because fundamentals don't mean much in the near term. And so you have to be in a position where you start to really recognize the charts are in control. The charts tell me when to take a trade. I never tell the charts when I want to take a trade. If I do, I'll lose. And so it's waiting patiently, and that discipline to say, I won't buy XYZ until it hits this price. And if it doesn't hit this price, who cares? because I've traded for 24 years now, and I've never had a point where I took a trade and there was never another trade to take, right? So there's always another trade. So be patient and watch your P&L. Don't focus on your daily P&L. At the end of the month, look back at it. All right. You might only make $100 a day, but at the end of the month, that's a pretty nice amount of money that you've profited.
Gareth, I know we don't have a lot of time. I wanted you to talk a little bit about verified investing. But what do you guys do there? What's happening there?
So verified investing, guys, is my newest project. It's a website, verifiedinvesting.com. I launched my crypto service on there, Verified Investing Crypto. It's structured where I give out exact entry exits on cryptos. I don't trade a lot in that. I will be honest. People that are like addicted to having a million trades, it's not going to be for you. It's disciplined. I have a 90-something% success rate on there because I'm so disciplined, and I do daily videos. So there's so much education in there. And again, I think that's what again comes back to is that for me, I could trade and I make plenty of money trading, but there's something to be said when I get on some of these streams I do and the comments that I see on videos I do and the interviews, and people are legit saying, thank you, you've helped me this. I mean, there's got to be more to life than just money, right? Trading, great, you make money, but it's again, when I'm dying on my bed someday, can I look back and say, wow, I helped a lot of people maybe make money or achieve financial freedom. And I think that's really what matters in the long run. And again, when I look at my kids, like I don't want to be like, yeah, I just was for the money. Like my mom, right? She didn't want me to become one of these greedy fat cats. So instead it's about how do I help people? Yeah, the money's great, but how am I helping people kind of achieve their dreams as well?
Fantastic. One last question. If you had to leave one advice for anybody starting out trading, what would you give them?
So the first thing I would say is, even if you have $1 million, start with 1,000 or 2,000 or 5,000. If you only have 5,000, start with $500. The more money you start with, the more money you'll lose. You have to get comfortable trading a certain amount of money, let's say 500 or 1,000 or $5,000. Once you're comfortable and you prove yourself on that, then raise it to 10 and then see how you do there. Because what happens is people will go right to the big numbers and they can't handle it emotionally. Being down on a trade X amount, they make the wrong decisions. Work slowly, study, use everything. Everything I say, just absorb it. Because everything I say and what other people say that are pro traders, it's good knowledge generally. And you can obviously, each person watching can decide, is this knowledge something that's going to help them or not? And it may not. Some of the stuff I say doesn't help everyone. That's okay. But be open to taking it in, decide and make it into what you want. And then again, be disciplined, find that logic, trust those charts, learn those charts. And I think everyone, honestly, I really believe if everyone has the metrics within them to be a pro, it's can they be disciplined enough to put it to use?
Gareth, I truly appreciate the discussion. It was awesome chatting to you. All the alpha. I love watching you, and also always a pleasure seeing you on Banter as well. Thank you so much for being here. And guys, thank you so much for watching. Subscribe to the channel, hit that like button, and let us know if you would like more of this content. Gareth, pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you so much, buddy. It really was a pleasure. Thanks again.
Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.